Hello, and welcome back to the Calm and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Janine Halloran, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different over the next 5 weeks. So, I wanted to take a deep dive into a topic that is really important for kids. It's perspective taking. So, perspective taking means being able to take somebody else's point of view. It can be hard to think of someone else's point of view in a situation. Some kids and adults struggle with this, to think about how this situation might make another person feel or how other people might react to the same information in a different way. Every person can see things from a different point of view. So there are several examples that come up in my life throughout just regular day-to-day interaction. So over the next several weeks, I'm also going to be sharing some of those anecdotes with you. So I'll start with one that recently happened, and it just involves myself and my husband in the mailbox. So he's going to get the mail, and he goes to grab it, and I see that the mail is all done, so I'm closing the mailbox, and I end up closing it on his hand because I'm short enough that I can see into the mailbox all the way to the back. That's just how it is. He isn't. So what he does every time he checks the mail is he has to actually put his hand in like twice to make sure that it's all like he's gotten everything from the back. I didn't actually realize this. 18 years of marriage, and I never realized this. 18 years living in this home, never realized this. And it's a metal mailbox, so I ended up pushing his hand and closing the mailbox cover onto his hand. Oops, sorry. But it's one of those things. From my perspective, I could see that there was no mail. So I knew that it was time to close the mailbox. From his perspective, and he's, 5'10", he could not see into the mailbox. So he had to just keep moving his hand closer in to see. So that's just a simple everyday example of, this, you're looking at the same mailbox, but it's two different perspectives. So that's a simple example of you may be in the same situation, but you may be perceiving it differently because of the things that are going on for you. Kids do struggle with perspective taking. They struggle with being able to see things from somebody else's point of view. The reason why perspective taking is so important is it is the beginning of being able to be empathetic, to understand how somebody else is thinking, how somebody else is feeling, and putting yourself in that person's shoes. So that's why I think it's so important that we do build perspective taking in our children and in our teens and as an adult, to continue to understand that other people may have a different point of view than you, and you may not understand it, but to be able to hear it from their perspective might be really helpful for you. Again, when it comes to learning social skills like perspective taking, one of the best things to do is to play games. So I have several games that I love using with kids to help them understand somebody else's perspective. The game I really want to focus on today is called Guess Who? Guess Who is traditionally a two-player game. And so basically what you do when you're playing Guess Who is you have a set of people in front of you and you are picking one person who you're going to pretend to be. And then the other person is picking another person who they're going to pretend to be. And by asking yes or no questions, then you can eliminate different people from the game and then figure out who the other person is. Your goal is to figure out your opponent's person. And you ask yes or no questions like, is your person a man? Does your person have brown eyes? Does your person have a hat on? So when you're playing the game, you actually really have to pay very close attention to detail. So you have to notice who has brown eyes, who's wearing glasses, who's got something on that has something that might be able to help you eliminate those people so that you can figure out who the other person is. Where perspective taking comes into play is that you have to shift perspective. So when the person is asking you questions, you have to focus on your answers and making sure that you are giving them the correct answer for your person. Then you have to shift perspective when it's the other person's turn. You have to think from their point of view. So you're not thinking about who you are anymore, you're thinking about who they are. And then you have to think about what questions have I already asked? What information do I already know? And what information do I still need in order to eliminate different people and come up with a proper answer? So it can be kind of tricky to shift from thinking about who you are to shift to thinking about who the other person is and answering questions appropriately on both sides, depending on whose turn it is. So that's the basic level of playing when you're using people. So some more recent Guess Who's also have different characters. So there's one that actually has household items, so like a vacuum cleaner and a coffee maker and a toaster. So it's all these items where, your household items. So the questions are going to be different. You have to pay attention to different things. Like, do you need electricity to run? Can you be used in the kitchen? Can you be used outside? Can you be used inside? So thinking about those different questions and helping to eliminate some of the different household items that are there. And then there's also one that has animals. So that is also a little bit tricky. What color are the animals? So you could say, is your animal green? Or does your animal have scales? Or does your animal have a tail? To help eliminate. So again, all those times are switching back and forth where you have to think about what your answers are for your person or your animal or your household item, and then switching to the other person and their item and or their person or their animal. I find those are a little bit more challenging for kids. It's easier to start with people. You can start with stuff like eye color, hair color, what they're wearing, that kind of thing. So that makes it a little bit easier. You have to think differently and be a little bit more of a flexible thinker to start thinking about questions that you should ask when you're using household items or you're using animals. So that's just one thing I wanted to put out there. So, this is the first in a series about different games for perspective taking. Next week, I'll be talking about another new game. So stay tuned for that. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Please feel free to give us a rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. And if you want more information about social skills, building activities for kids, please visit encourageplay.com. One last thing, don't forget about yourself. Please take time and take care of yourself and have a little fun. Have an awesome day.